Sitola, and I am a UNAVCO staff member helping to run this workshop. Welcome to the first time attendee orientation and anyone else who's interested in learning a little bit more about the workshop. This first set part of the session block is 30 minutes long. That's really related to the first time attendee welcome, and anyone else who's interested in learning more about the workshop history, the organizations involved, and the virtual meeting platform. We'll do a little orientation on that. So we'll start out with a quick welcome from the UNAVCO president, Rebecca Bendick. Then there'll be a history of the workshop and the organizations involved from Donna Charlevoix and John Tabor, who are the education directors for UNAVCO and IRIS. And then I'll do the virtual platform orientation. After these first 30 minutes, we'll stay in the same Zoom room and it'll go on to a student networking event. That will be led by Anika Knight and Wendy Bohan. Just a quick one on the overall goals of the workshop. It is to foster community among geodetic and seismic researchers, the faculty, students, and facility staff, facilitate scientific research by sharing results and planning future endeavors, and to provide a venue for professional development and a chance to learn new things for scientific and technical careers. Zoom etiquette, pretty standard. If you can please just check yourself in the participant pane and make sure that your name is something recognizable. A few people may be coming in as host 500 and other people may be someone else that uses your Zoom account. So if you just click the more, that can help a lot. Do make sure you're muted and unless you're actually speaking, and it can help a lot to have earbuds or headphones. This isn't a particularly large session, so it's totally fine if you want to have your camera on, especially when we get to the question asking phase. And there is the ability to do auto transcripts and closed captions in the bottom Zoom toolbar. The one thing we are doing that is different, which is the virtual platform chat box. So the website, the sessions page where you came to from this is the one to use instead of the Zoom chat, so that the questions are captured for the long term. Everyone that's part of this workshop has agreed to abide by the code of conduct from UNAVCO. So we will all treat each other with respect and consideration, value the different diversity of views, be considerate, inclusive, respectful, collaborative. And do remember that people are coming from many different places and many different institutions. And so it's good to listen fully to the person and critique ideas and not people. So if anyone has any issues at all when you're part of the workshop, please feel free to contact the president at unavco.org, or I realize I should have put community@unavco.org, and please let us know if you're having any issues. I am going to pass it over to Bex Bendick. Take it away, Bex.
Hi, everybody. Let me be the first, I think, to welcome you to the Gage Sage Science Workshop. We are just so excited to have this event, even though we recognize it's a little more fun face-to-face. It's also really interesting to see how many more and different kinds of people can engage when we run this virtually. So it's just my deep pleasure to welcome you to this event, and in doing so, remind you that your participation is of great value to us, and your participation long after this workshop is of great value to us. So this is like, I don't know, the gateway to becoming kind of permanently part of the UNAVCO and IRIS and eventually Earthscope family. We are all the better for the diversity of perspectives and the richness of life experiences and research interests that all of you bring to the conversation. So, if you're a first-time participant to this event, all the better, like all the more exciting that we get to hear from new voices with new ideas. So please, please, please don't be shy ever, but especially at this workshop, because we want to hear from you and hear about the things that you care about. I'm sure that Donna and John will tell you that the kind of underlying thread that binds together everything that IRIS and UNAVCO does is service to a community of scientists, whether they're citizen scientists or professional scientists or academic scientists. We exist to make sure that you can do your very best science and also communicate your very best science broadly and outward. So whatever we can do to help you do that, don't hesitate to ask. And this is a place to find out what services we offer, what tools we add to your toolbox, and what friendships and collaborations and relationships you can build by becoming part of our family. So have an awesome time, learn lots, put in your 2 cents or your dollar or whatever, however much opinion you have. And don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. Hopefully not only with harassment issues, but also with your excitement and enthusiasm for all that we do. So please keep in touch, and I can't wait to hear from all of you.
Beth, you're muted.
I was holding down the space bar. That's supposed to work. Okay, thanks, Bex. And so now we're going to move on to John Tabor from IRIS.
Speaking of being muted, I'd also like to welcome everyone to our workshop, and especially big welcome to all those who are coming to an IRIS or a Sage Gauge or IRIS-F/UNAVCO workshop for the first time. I'm John Tabor. I'm the Director of Education and Public Outreach for IRIS. And so I'm going to give you a quick overview of what IRIS and Sage are about. And then I'll be passing it on to Donna Charlevoix, who will be doing the same for IRIS or for UNAVCO and Gauge. And as you listen to those two presentations, you might notice that there's a lot of similarities between our two groups. And if you look beyond what's different is the data, the type of data, the type of equipment. But otherwise, we are very similar organizations. And so you'll hear more about that sort of as throughout the workshop. The workshop itself, we used to do separate workshops. So we had an IRIS workshop and we had a UNAVCO workshop. And then as we've come closer together, we've now started having a joint workshop every year. So this is I guess this is about our third, or this is what was going to be our third. I guess it's our second joint workshop, and we'll be continuing on like this in the future. So if you go to the next slide. So what's IRIS? Well, IRIS, as Bex mentioned, we're really all about community. So we're a community governed university consortium. We were formed back in 1984, so we've been around for a while now. We have over 125 member institutions. So it's the institutions that join IRIS and also UNAVCO as opposed to the individuals. And we have also over 100 educational and foreign affiliate members. We have about 55 staff or so, but then what's a little different between IRIS and UNAVCO is we have a number of projects that are run more through subawards. So we have about 50 people or so that are as part of our subawardees and partners. We're based in Washington, D.C. with our data center in Seattle, and then we also have a field office in Anchorage. And our big subawardees are the University of San Diego. They help to run the Global Seismic Network, that I'll talk about in a moment, and then New Mexico Tech, which runs the portable equipment system. And then the big thing about what IRIS is doing is we manage and operate this SAGE, which is the Seismological Facility for the Advancement of Geosciences, and that's what NSF funds. So most of the things, or a lot of the things you see as a community member are part of the facility that the NSF is supporting. So if you go to the next slide. So as I said, NSF is funding our facility. We really are very appreciative for the many years of funding that our NSF has provided so that the community can conduct research. And we have three main parts of SAGE. One is instrumentation services. So that includes the Global Seismic Network that we co-run with the U.S. Geological Survey. That's over 150 instruments that are distributed around the globe. Those are broadband systems that have been in place for a long time, so they're very good for any sorts of global scale research. Then we have our portable equipment. That's what's available through the Pascal Instrument Center in Socorro, and that's really for PI-led experiments. So those tend to be shorter, though they can sometimes be experiments over several years. It's also equipment that's available for event response. So for example, there's equipment that's gone up to Alaska for the big Alaska earthquake that just happened a week or so ago. And then the sort of equipment we have, it's primarily seismic equipment, lots of different types of sensors. We also have magnetotellurics. That's something new that's been added over the last few years. And we even have a couple ground penetrating radar units. Another big part of what we have been doing over the past 15 years is the transportable array that started in the continental US, went across the continental US over about a 10-year period, and now has been up in Alaska for about 5 years or so. And unfortunately, in terms of the amount of data coming in, it's finally ending, but it's an amazing data set that will be available for many years to come. And that's a really dense network of stations. About, well, in the lower 48, it was over 400 stations, and it's about 350 or so stations in Alaska, I think, when the full array was out. Then we also support instrumentation both in Antarctica and Greenland for both long-term monitoring and also short-term experiments. So next slide. Now we move on to data services. That's a very important part of IRIS. There's a huge data set available freely to anyone who wants to access it. There are over 4,000 stations that are sending their data from networks around the world in real time. And then the DMC puts a lot of effort into making sure people can access that data. So there are tools for data access, for doing quality control. A lot of that is for doing quality control on network data, and then also for initial analysis of data. And then they have a whole suite of data products. So things like, some of you may have seen the ground motion visualizations that show the wave propagation across the transportable array network, and now also across the US. Then finally, we have the education and outreach program. That's the program that I run. We have things at a variety of levels. We have a number of things at the undergraduate level. So for example, we run an internship program. We have been for a number of years. And then we also have something in the last 2 years, we've been running a virtual seismic skill building workshop. So that's something we'll be continuing on for multiple years, something you may want to have your students take part in. And because it's virtual, they can do that from anywhere in the world. We develop curriculum materials, classroom resources for anywhere from K-12 up through undergraduate level. And one of the new things we're working on is developing a set of modules that's targeting more diverse students. So we're trying to show that geophysics can be useful in one's community, and that we can try to get that geophysics, those modules available for students in their freshman, sophomore years. So that'll be coming out. The modules are being tested now, and they'll be coming out later in the fall. And then finally, we have a very active social media set of platforms. We have a lot of material on the web, things like animations, and then lots of other tools for easy access to data. So with that, I'll hand it off to Donna.
And maybe I'll say real quick that if you have any questions as you hear from Donna and John, feel free to put that into the web page chat instead of the Zoom chat, and we'll be doing questions as soon as Donna is done. We'll be handling those. Thanks.
Great, thanks, John. Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Charlevoix, and I work at UNAVCO, and I'm the director for the Education and Community Engagement Program and manage the communications. You're going to hear a lot of similarities of what John just said, but I do want to make sure that you identify also a bit of the differences. So we, like IRIS, UNAVCO is community-led. And so we're a consortium. We basically exist because the scientific community would like us to help them with their research in science. We've also been around since 1984. We are global, so we have 117 countries are represented, and we have over 250 member universities and institutions. And very similar to what John Tabor just said, to be a member of UNAVCO, if you will, is at the institutional level. That being said, any person can join our community, and both IRIS and UNAVCO have ways to get engaged, which I'll share at the end. So we use geodesy to understand Earth processes and help society become more resilient to natural hazards. And geodesy is not something that's typically taught in undergraduate curriculum and sometimes not even in graduate curriculum. It's basically the study of Earth's size and shape and changes within it and the gravity field. And the thing that's so amazing about geodesy is that you can actually use geodetic data to study many different geophysical aspects of Earth. Again, similar to IRIS, UNAVCO, we are actually a nonprofit. So I actually work for a nonprofit organization. We have about 70 staff or so. Our headquarters is in Boulder, Colorado. That's a picture of our of the facility that's in Boulder. We have satellite offices in Southern California, and we share an office in Alaska with IRIS. But UNAVCO also just recently moved to a more formal remote model. So staff may not live in those 3 locations. We actually can be located anywhere in the US. And similar to IRIS, UNAVCO operates a facility on behalf of the NSF and NASA, the GAGE facility. So what is GAGE? It is a facility basically is there to help facilitate your science. And so we're not only supporting your scientific research, but we're also supporting education. And our focus is on geodesy. Our funding is primarily from the NSF and also from NASA. And so we support a lot of scientific research that's focused on earth science and also polar science. So again, similar parallel to IRIS and the SAGE facility. That support includes principal investigator research. So if you are even a student or a faculty member or a researcher who's writing a proposal, you can actually leverage our services as a principal investigator for your research. And then on behalf of NASA, we operate the Geodetic Global Network and activities of the IGS Central Bureau. And so we have a very close connection with NASA in that regard. A little bit more kind of close to the actual people that work at UNAVCO and help support the GAGE facility. Again, similar to IRIS and SAGE, we have kind of 3 programs within GAGE. One is focused on instrumentation, another on data, and another on education, outreach, and community. The geodetic instrumentation largely supports networks. So the Network of the Americas is a huge network that extends from the Aleutian Islands down to Mexico and across to the Caribbean, as well as networks in Greenland. And we also do a lot of campaign support. So that would be GPS, GNSS, and geodetic imaging. And like John had mentioned, we are our engineers from UNAVCO and IRIS are working together to help support our community researchers right now as we speak. They are on planes and helicopters flying out to instrumentation, gathering data and installing campaign instrumentation in Alaska. Our data services, the one thing that I want to mention, and it's true for both organizations, is that we have a model of completely open data. So the data is freely available to anyone who wants to use it. We help with the data processing and management and archiving. And the little box on the right shows the different types of data that we actually help to support. A lot of it is GPS or GNSS, but we also have SAR satellite data, LiDAR, structure from motion. We have strain and seismic data that come from our borehole instrumentation, and then also tropospheric data that's used for meteorological purposes. And then in terms of community support, we do a lot of technical short courses and training. So if you're a student, you may have taken one of the courses that we've facilitated that's been taught by an expert in the community. Similar to IRIS, we also have internships focused on broadening participation in science. And we also have a lot of educational materials that are available for students and faculty or anybody interested in learning more. I really want to encourage all of you throughout this week to not only be engaged on the Pathable platform, but also connect with us through social media. So both organizations are very active on social media and sharing lots of news, geophysics news, interesting updates. You can connect with community members there. And so here's a couple of the channels. Typically, if you search for UNAVCO or IRIS EPO, you'll find us there. So With that, I'm going to stop sharing and thank you for your attention.
Excellent, thank you, Donna and John. I am just refreshing my screen because my session page got, okay, so it looks like nobody has put any questions into the chat. If anyone would just like to unmute and verbally ask a question regarding anything about the facilities or UNAVCO or IRIS, we'd be happy to field those questions. Or it's all totally clear. We'll give it another little time in case anyone's typing. Are there any internship opportunities for graduate students? Donna, want to take that one?
Yes, absolutely. So at least at UNAVCO, we have a, and I'll let Anika speak to this, but we do have 3 internship programs. One is focused on community college students, one is for undergraduates, and another is a work internship that typically is graduate students, could be upper division undergrads. Anika, we had what, 7 interns in that program this summer, and were they grad students or recent graduates?
They were all either current grad students or recent graduates. We did have a couple people who had just completed their undergraduate work. But yeah, definitely check us out. They change from year to year, so each position fulfills a need that someone on the UNAVCO staff has for that year. So this year we had individuals working on different coding. We had someone in our communications department. So they're never like a set amount or a set type of internship, but they definitely change, and we had a lot of really great opportunities this year.
And I put the link for the internship page in the chat. And they usually, the internships are announced in, especially the USIP ones, early 2022, late 2021, with a February something deadline-ish.
They should be announced November, December, and they deadline is February 1st. Yeah, first.
I think this year was a
February 1st.
little bit, but anyhow, yes, February 1st, right?
COVID.
So it's good
Yeah.
to come, COVID for everything, right? Come and take a check by the time we get to AGU if you're interested in that, and then you can see what's there.
And I would also encourage everybody to join the mailing list for UNAVCO and for IRIS, and maybe we could get those that information on how to do that into the chat. Maybe Melissa could put the UNAVCO one in there, and John or Wendy the IRIS. The reason that I say that is because, like I said, universities or institutions become members. And so when we often send newsletters and other information out, it might go to a single person at that institution, a member representative, but it won't necessarily get to the students or to faculty in the department. And so if you join these mailing lists, you will get announcements of internship opportunities as well as lots of other things. So I would encourage you to join those and share with other people that you might know, students or faculty.
Like a lot of graduate students attend our short courses, technical short courses.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I just mentioned that IRIS occasionally has an internship for a grad student at Pascal. It hasn't the last couple years, but if you're interested, you could check with me and see whether they're likely to have one for next year.
I was just going to emphasize checking out our social media page and the UNAVCO webpage. This year's communications interns did a spotlight on all of our different interns, so you can get a glimpse of what they did this past summer. And we also post when applications are open on all of our social media platforms. So if that's something that you're more likely to check out, do so, please.
Don't think any other questions have come in. Feel free to ask any other questions that they come up. I am going to give a quick orientation to the virtual platform and other aspects of the meeting. So I will share my screen again. One thing I thought for those of you who are domestic and didn't opt out, you would have received a notebook. And inside the notebook is, you know, an overview of the agenda and also some places that you can take notes. Sorry, unless I hold this in front of myself, it doesn't actually show. And some places where if you get tired of regular reactions, you can use emojis or even make your own with the lovely Iris pen that you got. So for those of you that didn't opt out, you would have gotten a welcome packet a week or two ago, and it also has stickers and other brochures. So we welcome you to do that. Feel free to hold up the emoji, your emoji of choice, if you are getting tired of the ones that are regular, like so geophysics, not one that's usually available from regular ones. Oh, looks like this overall. There we go. Didn't quite catch the first time I hit it. The main meeting starts tomorrow. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and each of the session blocks are 2 hours long. So today this session is the equivalent of sort of the middle one of the day. So there's 2 hours and a break, and 2 hours and a break, and 2 hours. So 6 hours of session spread over 8 hours of time. So that's the pattern for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. With different things, you know, plenary sessions, poster sessions, special interest breakout groups, and community sessions. And then on Friday, we had one this morning, but we'll have another international panel in this one with the emphasis on Africa and Asia. So you're welcome to attend any and all of these things. And I think I'll just, since I know you're here, I know you found the website. All of the sessions will either be Zoom meetings like the one here, which can be more interactive. Everyone can share their video. Some of the larger plenary and community sessions will be webinar style, but you will always be able to ask chat questions in the page here. And we encourage you to do that often. So I think I'll just show you a few things on the website here. So agenda, you can make your own agenda. You can find different people. We have a gamification section here where you can get in a drawing to win some prizes for doing more things like networking. You can join into conversations on these different topics or start your own one. So for instance, I think we have a few things started here related to diversity and inclusion, and you can keep these conversations going. And there's also the opportunity to actually decide that you'd like to invite people to a meeting or a group of people to a meeting and have your own Zoom room within the larger workshop here to meet with people related to collaboration. So we are pretty much out of time. I was going to suggest if we had another minute or two, but I still suggest it maybe a little later today. If you haven't already, add your profile picture and maybe a bit about you so people can see you. You add some sessions to your agenda. You'll see that if you're in the agenda here, if you have a session, you have these pluses and you can add them to your My Agenda. And then go ahead and look around the conversations, schedule a meeting with somebody and check and see if you've made any game points yet. You'll get 15 points for putting in a photo. And then more points every time that you actually, use a discussion or put a picture up or things of that nature. So hopefully, despite the fact we are all in our own different rooms, this can feel like personal connections to the people that we're sharing this workshop with.